Hi, and welcome to this tutorial on adding and using an appSettings.json file in .NET Core 2.0. We will look at how we can set up and load configuration in our startup.cs class from an appSettings.json file. We will then look at how we can add an appSettings.Production.json file, and finally, how we can test our production.json settings locally. Okay, so let's get started. What I have in front of me is a new ASP.NET Core web application, an empty one, and we're going to add configuration settings. So first of all, let's head along to Startup, and we want to create a constructor. And we're also going to create a property, and the property is going to be iConfiguration. And we'll make sure that the using statement Microsoft Extensions configuration has been added up the top here. I'm going to call this configuration. And now we're going to add to our constructor. We're going to add a configuration builder that's going to allow us to set the base path, our JSON files, and some other settings. So we're going to call this add var build equals new configuration builder. And we're going to chain the methods set base path, env.content root path. We're also going to need to add the iHosting environment up the top in our startup parameters. And what this is going to do is it's going to tell us what environment that we're in so that we can set different settings for different environments, whether that be local or production. Let's continue adding to our configuration builder. We're going to say add JSON file, and the JSON files that we are going to add are going to be appSettings.json, and we're going to make it optional false and reload on change true. So that means that it's a needed file, and if the application on startup cannot find it, it will crash. We're going to add another JSON file, so we can add multiple JSON files in our configuration builder. And our next one is going to be appSettings.env.environment name. .json, and we'll make this one optional true. So what that's going to allow us to do is create two appsetting.json files, one simply named appsettings.json and the second named the different environments that we want to test on and that we might have different settings for. Now let's say add environment variables. And this is going to load up any environment variables that have been set on the machine that your application is running on. Often secret keys will be added to the environment variables, so it's not easily got by hackers. Okay, let's say configuration equals builder dot build, and that's going to build up our configuration. Excellent. Now we need to add our appsettings.json files. So I'm going to right click and add these items. I'm just going to search for .json up the top here and appsettings.json. Excellent. Add. And I'm also going to add the production app settings. .production. And you'll notice that it's been put underneath the appsettings.json file. Now, something to note here is that the app settings gets loaded up on startup, and any environment variables or any variables that have been set in the appSettings.Production will overwrite anything in app settings, but appSettings.json will be used in production environment. Okay, so I'm going to add some temporary, I'm just going to copy and paste this and add some temporary values to our appSettings.json file. As you can see, these are just an example to show you how the hierarchy of the app settings works and how we can access them. So we've got an application settings, base URL, application name, and environment development. And if we copy and paste that into our production one, but let's name the environment production so that we can, test what settings are being read in. Okay, so the different ways that we can read these values. Let's look at how we can read directly from the appSettings.json file. We might say, let's have a look. We want to see what environment we're in. Configuration. And we're going to follow the path. So you notice that this path here directly maps to what we have here, application settings, environment. Okay, if we put a breakpoint there and we run it, and we'll just skip over it. And we see that the environment variable has been saved. That is in our appSettings.json file. Another way that we might want to use the app settings is by reading it throughout our application. So let's look at how we'll do that. Let's first create a model folder and create a class called appSettings. We're going to create a property, name environment, return type string. And what's going to happen is that in startup, we're going to load up our appSettings class file here with all the settings in our appSettings.json file. And then we can inject it and use it in different classes throughout our application. So now that we've got an app settings file, we need to inject it into our configure services method. So let's do that by services.configure. Call our class that we just created, app settings. Now configuration.get section, because we want to get a certain section that is in our app settings. So that application settings here directly relates to our appSettings.json file application settings. So it's going to load up all of these as long as we have properties for them. At the moment, we only have environment. Okay, so what I've done is create a simple controller, a ping controller that returns OK. I've done this just as an example so I can show you how to load up app settings inside your application. So I want to create a field up top, private read-only app settings, and we'll call that app settings. We also want to load this up in the constructor, and we're going to use iOptions, app settings, app settings here. Then inside our constructor, we want to say app settings field equals app settings dot value. Now I'm not going to go too much into the iOptions and what it is and how it's used inside .NET Core, but there is a link in my description to explain more from the MSDN site about why we use iOptions. Okay, so now we've got those loaded up in our constructor, we can say var environment again equals underscore appSettings dot environment, and let's put a breakpoint there and head back to our startup file. Need to make sure that our application will actually run, so we're just going to add the MVC services dot add MVC and app.use MVC. It will allow us to run our application and hit our ping endpoint. Let's run our application, move that breakpoint, add ping in here so we can get to our ping endpoint. Here we are, skip over that, and now you can see that the environment variable here has been loaded up with development. And finally, let's look at how we might test the appSettings.Production.json file. We don't necessarily want to load this up into our production environment to test that all of these settings are working. So if we head along to debug, appSettings properties, we can change under debug the value here. So let's say production, close that, save, load the application again. And we can skip over this and we can see that it now has production. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please remember to hit like and subscribe to my YouTube channel to keep up with all my latest YouTube tutorials.